Hey everybody, my name is Andrew Young. I just finished up my first year at Virginia Tech and I wanted to make a quick college advice video. I was looking for these on YouTube over the past few days, in the past little bit actually, for my school, and I didn't really see a whole lot of them, so I wanted to make one myself. I just got home from my first year a few days ago on Wednesday, and it was a life-changing experience, and I just wanted to be able to share some of that experience with you. And maybe if you're someone who's going off to school in the fall, or someone who's looking at going to college, or someone who just finished one of their years in school, maybe you can relate to some of these. But anyways, I just wanted to make a quick advice video. So I listed a few really like things I maybe would have done differently, or just general pieces of advice for anyone going off to school, or maybe looking for, I don't know, any suggestions for the next few years. So first thing, don't go home all the time. Now, what I mean by that is, I'll explain. So, I went to VT, as I explained. I went to Virginia Tech, which is pretty far from where I live. It's about 4 hours, and it was far. And I'm a homebody. I'm a mama's boy. I'm a daddy's boy, and there were some times where I was really tempted to go home, especially when I had nothing to do on the weekends, and I didn't. I made myself stay at school, and I think that was the right move. I think if you go home too much, you miss out on your experience. I also have a really long term girlfriend who I've been together with for a very long time here at home, and so it was always really tempting to come home and visit her when I had nothing going on at school. Um, but I made myself stay because I didn't want to miss out. I have a bad case of FOMO, fear of missing out on anything. So I made myself stay, and I don't regret it, because I think, like I said, if you go home too much, you miss out on a lot of really cool experiences that go on the weekends at school. So that's one thing I would advise is, even when you're tempted, even if you have nothing going on, or you're just uncomfortable with something, don't go home. Just give it a chance, and stay. So that was my first thing. The second thing is a really big deal at Virginia Tech, and it's probably a big deal at most big state schools. Be strategic about when you do things. Be strategic about your times. And what I mean by that in particular involve the dining halls and the gym. So, fun fact about VT: VT has some of the best food in the country. I believe we're in the top three, top two. And we're also the most fit campus in the nation, which is pretty ridiculous. So there's always people in the dining halls, and there's always people at the gym, which was annoying for me because I'm someone that loses my patience pretty easily if there's a big crowd of people at going somewhere where I am at the same time. So it's really important that you always keep track of your time, keep track of everything that's going on. If you want to go to the gym and you don't want it to be crowded, you got to go like before 4 o'clock p.m. If you're really crazy, like I was, sometimes I'd get up at 6 in the morning and go to the gym before classes, or I would eat dinner at 4 o'clock in the afternoon just to avoid the crowds at the dining halls. It's really important that you keep track of that time if that's something that bothers you. If it doesn't bother you, maybe it's not that big of a deal, then just go whenever you feel like. But for someone who's really kind of picky about that kind of thing, it was really important that I planned everything out. So, for example, there are some dining halls that get at Virginia Tech that get really crowded after like 5 p.m. Or there'll be some days where there's a specialty meal served in a dining hall, and so it'll be crowded all day, and you just have to kind of allot for that and just be ready for that. And if that's something that bugs you, and then avoid it. So that's my second thing. Just be really strategic about your time. And honestly, that's one of my biggest points. Is that's really important. So third thing, bring a car. So at Virginia Tech, as a freshman, you're allowed to have a car. You just have to pay a parking fee. I believe it's 400 a semester, which sounds like a lot, but it's honestly worth it. I didn't bring a car, and I wish I did, because there were so many times that I was bored and I wanted to go somewhere locally, like Christiansburg, which is a town that's nearby, or I wanted to go to Roanoke, or which is another city that's kind of nearby, and I couldn't because I had a car, and so I was stuck on campus and stuck in the dorms doing nothing. And there were so many times where I wish I could get places, and I couldn't. The bus system is fantastic at VT. The bus system runs to a lot of great different places at a lot of great times. But there were some times where I just wanted to go some places that didn't have bus service, that you're going to run into that eventually. So I wish I brought a car, and it definitely makes things easier, especially when you have to like go get groceries. You got to go to the local Kroger. You got to go to the mall or something, which is also nearby. If you have a car, it just makes it easier. You don't have to get on the bus, and you don't have to walk to Squires, which is our student union, to jump on a bus and go somewhere. And it just makes it easier if you bring a car. Most people I know don't bring a car because they just don't want to bother with the parking fees, which I understand, and they don't want to bother like having to walk to your car at Lane Stadium or the Cage, which is another parking lot on campus. They just don't want to deal with that, and I understand that. I just personally wish I brought a car. So, fourth thing is dorm life is a crapshoot. If you haven't lived in a dorm before, just be ready because it's a big change. It was a big change for me, and honestly, it was part of the reason that part of my first year was rough, is that I wasn't prepared for the fact that I was going to be constantly surrounded by people, and that's something that isn't always great for me. I'm someone that needs to be able to retreat, and kind of hang out by myself and just have some alone time. And it just kind of bugged me that I would walk into my dorm room and there would always be someone there. You know, that I would walk into my hall and there would always be somebody there, because sometimes I just needed to be alone. So for someone who's also like that, someone who also needs their time of day to be alone, just be ready because that's going to be a change. There's always going to be people around, and it's going to be loud and it's going to be obnoxious sometimes, and that's just something you have to adjust to. There's a lot of great things about dorm life. Your friends are right there. You meet so many great people that you may keep in contact with and have relationships with for a really long time. And it's really nice just having your friends like on the floor below you, floor above you, across the hall from you. Like that's really nice. But dorm life is also a crapshoot because you're sharing a room with someone else who maybe doesn't want to share a room. Uh, you've got to carry shower caddies around. You got to wear flip flops when you shower. The dorm I lived in, it wasn't the nicest place. So you just have to be ready for those kinds of things. And if that's something that bothers you, if you're somebody that needs their own space, like just be ready for that because that's going to be a change. So another thing I had on here is don't overpack. That was one thing that I definitely suffered from. I overpacked. I have too many clothes. I have a bad habit of buying too many t-shirts. And so I brought way too many clothes to school and I barely had enough room for everything. So my suggestion would be pack in waves. So pack for the fall semester. So pack, short sleeve tees and jeans and shorts and everything, because in Blacksburg it doesn't really get too cold until October. So pack, summer, fall clothes for fall semester, and then springtime. Don't be fooled on this one. Springtime, bring winter clothes because in Blacksburg it does not get remotely nice until April if you're lucky. So pack jackets, boots for snow, pack all this winter stuff for spring, but don't overpack because you never want to have too many clothes that you can't put everything away like I did. So just be careful about that. So next one is a cliche, but it's really important to hit on. Stay on top of your work. It's really important. Time management is the key, especially at tech. I know friends that were staying up all night, pulling all-nighters the week before finals week because they just procrastinated everything. And not to brag, but I was able to leave school a week early because I finished all my work in advance. It's really about and my roommate was also able to do the same thing. He left the day after me because he just finished all his work and he didn't have to be there. So if you stay on top of your work and you just manage your time well, college is not that. I didn't think it was that tough. Yeah, just keep track of things and stay on top of your work. Don't procrastinate. You're going to be tempted to procrastinate, especially when there's a lot of things going on. There's a lot of nightlife surrounding you. There's a big football game. You're going to be tempted, and you'll always have opportunities to be social and have a good time. But your work has to come first. And well, that's just my opinion. Your work has to come first, and don't procrastinate because your life is not going to be fun if you procrastinate everything. You're going to be staying up very late on Sunday nights. So that's another big thing. I know it's a cliche, but it's important to hit on. Next one is be adventurous. That was one thing I really tried to do when I went off to school, and I think I really did a good job of it. Whether it be your clubs, what you choose to get involved in at school, the classes you take, or what I wanted to focus on, food. Just be adventurous with your choices. Virginia Tech dining, like I said, is ridiculous. And there were a lot of really great different foods that I hadn't necessarily come around on before I left. And so my goal was to try different foods and ultimately see how that worked out for me. And I think it was one of the best things I did because I tried so many great different dishes at school that really I'm learning how to make at home right now. And so it really pays to be not interesting. Pays to be open to different things at school. And also when it comes to clubs, there were a few organizations that I joined that were really kind of a leap of faith for me. And I think that was good. I think that was healthy. I think that helped me grow and really kind of helped find my niche at school, which ultimately made my experience better. If you take leaps of faith and you just be adventurous about the clubs you join, I think that'll ultimately make your college experience better and more rich. So you might see an organization, you may not know what they're about. Check them out and just go see what they're about and see if it might be a good fit for you. And if maybe it is, then give it a shot. College is all about being adventurous. And one thing that's cool about VT is that in the first few weeks at VT, we have something called Gobbler Fest, which is a big big event on campus where all the organizations, student organizations, clubs, activities, fraternities, sororities, etc., they all set up on the drill field, which is our main quad, and they just talk about their clubs, and it's really interesting, and it's a really good place to kind of feel out the different clubs and organizations and see what's a good fit for you. So highly recommend just being adventurous with what you do at school, and that's really important. So another thing is follow your gut. That was one thing I really tried hard to do this year, was follow my gut and just don't force anything. I feel like a lot of kids that go off to school will feel forced to do a lot of things. Not literally, but figuratively. For example, there were times where I felt forced to kind of love Virginia Tech. I liked my experience there, and I enjoy it, and I'm definitely going back in the fall. There were some times where, like at football games, they would say, this is home and all sort of stuff. And when I would bring up something, I didn't like about the school, people would kind of hit me like, "What do you mean? Like Virginia Tech is heaven on earth." So don't feel like you have to just love your school. I mean, it's always great to have spirit, and I have plenty of Hokie pride myself. I'm proud to be at Virginia Tech, but don't feel like you have to worship your school and everything it does. There will be great things about the school you go to. There will be things that aren't so great. So don't force anything. Don't feel like you have to love the school you go to. If there's something you don't like about it, don't like it. It's important that you be honest with yourself. If there's something you don't like about your college experience, then be open about it. And that's one thing I did. So that's good. And also, don't feel forced to get along with your roommate. My roommate and I got lucky. I've known my roommate for 10 years. When he told me he was going to tech, I asked him if he wanted to room together, and it was a no-brainer. And one thing, though, is him and I have been friends for a really long time, but we never felt forced to do anything together or become tighter. We just kind of let it be natural. Don't feel like you're forced to be best friends with your roommate, because sometimes it just doesn't work that way. You might have two people that are completely different, and you guys may just have a relationship where you just come back and sleep in the same place, but you don't talk, and that's okay. It's just people are different, and you gotta be reasonable about that when you go off to school. And sometimes roommates will be great friends. I know roommates that were really tight. I know roommates that weren't on speaking terms. So just have reasonable expectations with the relationships that you're going to have around you. Don't force a friendship with your roommate, and don't force anything, and follow your gut. Also, if you go to a school that you don't like, and your gut's telling you that you don't want to be there for 3 years, or 4 years, then don't be there for 4 years. Like, it's your college experience. You only get it once. Follow your gut. So, yeah. And then my last one is don't feel pressured about anything. You're gonna have a lot of changes around you in college. For me, for example, when I went off to school, I was really, and I still kind of am, very against alcohol and drug use, and it always really bugged me when I saw people like around me drinking or doing drugs or things like that. I don't do it personally still, but don't feel pressured. If someone around you is drinking or whatever, or was doing drugs or something, and they're trying to coerce you into it, don't feel pressured. Don't succumb to the peer pressure. Like, you've got to be comfortable. Like I said, college is about trying new things and being adventurous, but you got to set a line for yourself. If you're uncomfortable with anything, or if anything is just too big a leap of faith for you, or you just get a bad gut feeling from something, don't do it. And don't feel pressure to do anything. Just because someone else does something and they think it's cool doesn't mean you have to. And like I said, college is about being adventurous, but you got to make smart choices, and don't let other people peer pressure you into things. So that's my last thing. I hope this video has been helpful for any of you guys that are thinking about going off to school or getting ready for school, whatever. Leave some comments. I would love to hear your thoughts and opinions. And yeah, thank you so much for watching, and you guys have a great day.